Welcome to our third volume of Magnum Performance Video Magazine. In our first story, we'll show you how to incorporate a switch to automatically turn the acre per hour counter on and off when doing planting work. Next, we'll review both the steering and oscillation stops on the front axle. These are often not adjusted properly, so we'll show you how to set them for your customer. Then, we're going to show you two auxiliary electrical power sources in the Magnum cab and how to hook up electronic equipment to them. Our row crop customers have asked us for a tighter turning Magnum, and we've found a solution. We'll review a new axle that's now available that we're sure your customers will really like. And finally, we'll show you how to improve the performance of the sun shaft seal installed on MFD tractors. This step-by-step procedure will show you a few techniques to use when installing the new seal. If you have story ideas you would like to see in upcoming issues of the Magnum Performance Video Magazine, please contact our product support group or your local parts and service manager. Many customers use the area per hour feature built into the instrument cluster for accurate measurement of their fields. Planting is one operation that requires this kind of accuracy. To review the area per hour feature, you should practice its operation. Push the Area Hour button to display the number of acres being done per hour. The readout will be shown on the upper display screen. The reading will be identified as acres per hour or hectares per hour, depending on the measurement system being used. Push the Total Area button to display the total accumulation of acres since the last reset of total area. The readout will be shown on the upper display screen. The digital instrument cluster will automatically accumulate area anytime the tractor is operating and has been programmed for equipment width and ground speed. Area accumulation can be stopped or started with the Stop and Start buttons. To stop the accumulation, push the Stop button. The area readout will flash on and off. To start the accumulation, push the Start button. The total area reading can be reset to 0 with the Reset button. Now that you have familiarized yourself with the instrument cluster, let's see how the stop and start functions can be controlled automatically. An optional switch assembly is available from Dickey-John, which will automatically stop and start the total area accumulation when the implement is raised and lowered. The operator's manual tells your customers to see you for further information. Customers can expect an accurate accumulation of total area done with the implementation of this kit. The implement status switch can be mounted to either the lift arms on the 3-point hitch or to the implement. Detailed instructions are shipped with the kit. There are 2 points to consider when mounting the kit. First, to make sure the spring is never stretched more than 4 inches from its free hanging position. And 2, make sure the switch wires are hooked up correctly. The switch has 3 wires, black, red, and green. The black wire is common, the red wire is normally closed, and the green wire is normally open. In Magnum tractors, the switch should be open or not making contact when the implement is in field operation. If the switch plunger is pulled out when the implement is lowered into the ground, you would use the black and red wires on the switch. But if the switch is mounted so the plunger is retracted when the implement is in the ground, you would use the black and green wires. The 71 and 7200 series tractors are pre-wired to accept this switch to stop the accumulation of acres when the implement is raised. The wires for this function are located behind the hydraulic filter on the right side of the tractor. They are labeled Y285 and B285. You can order the switch kit for your customers from Dickey-John. Their toll-free number is 1-800-637-2952. In Illinois, call 1-800-252-2964. And in Canada, call 613-938-2900. The part numbers for the kit are 456-321-070 for the switch, 462-420-80051 for the 97.5-inch long adapter cable, and 108-42001 for the 30-foot extension cable. You should note that this kit is for the 71 and 7200 series Magnum tractors only, and is not the same kit that was used on the 94 and 96 series tractors. Tractors with mechanical front drive are equipped with steering and oscillation stops. They should be set correctly as part of the pre-delivery of Magnum tractors. Also, each time the tread setting is changed, the steering and oscillation stops must be set accordingly. The steering and oscillation stops are used to give the required steering clearance between the front tires and tractor frame. The front tire size and tread width being used will determine the required steering and oscillation angles. Each adjustment hole in the steering stop is identified with an arrow and a number. With the arrow pointing toward the wheel, the number indicates the turn angle when the mounting pin is installed in that hole. The pin is designed to provide 8 different settings, 4 in one direction and 4 in the other. The steering stop is installed in either direction depending on the tire size and tread width being used. Oscillation stops are required for some tire size and tread width combinations. The oscillation stops are installed on the axle stop pad on either side of the tractor. You can find the steering stop and oscillation charts in the operator's manual. These charts show the steering stop turn angle and oscillation stop requirement for each tread width and tire size combination for tractors with and without fenders. So don't forget to check both the steering stops and the oscillation stops when changing or resetting the front tires. This will help your customer get the best turning angle possible from his Magnum. Magnum tractors are equipped with 2 auxiliary power sources. The most visible source is the one located on the front of the right-hand console. This connector is often used for seed monitors. The other power source is located under the tray on the rear of the console. Many technicians don't know this power connector is here. Let's examine these power sources in more detail. The front auxiliary power connector is protected by a 30-amp circuit breaker and has 3 terminal pins. Pin A supplies 12 volts from the key switch. Pin B supplies constant power from the battery. The C pin is ground. A mating connector can be ordered to make installation easier. Part number 1714005 comes packaged with the connector, 3 terminals, and a cable clamp. Each of these components can be ordered individually as well. The connector body is part number 225165C1. The terminals carry part number 225-166C1, and the cable clamp can be ordered using part number 225-153C1. A crimping tool can be used to attach the wires to the terminals. It is included in the electrical connector and terminal repair kit, part number ZJI400004. The 3-wire power lead located under the tray on the rear of the control console has a weatherproof connector. This connector also has 3 pins. Pin A supplies 12 volts from the key switch. Pin B supplies constant power from the battery. And pin C is ground. The connector and its terminals are found in the electrical connector and terminal repair kit. Because of the many requirements for 12-volt operated equipment in the cab today, your customers will appreciate these 2 sources of auxiliary power. It's now possible to improve the turning radius on Magnum tractors. A specialty MFD front axle has been released in addition to the standard MFD axle to provide additional tire combinations. This new axle will provide an internal reduction of 19.58 as compared with 21.52 on the standard axle. This will allow the use of smaller front tires to improve row crop turning performance. This change was accomplished by changing the ring and pinion gears inside the front axle. The specialty axle can be identified by the reduction listed on the serial number plate. A listing of the approved tire combinations that may be used are found in the whole goods price book. The specialty axle can be obtained by ordering in Section 05, Code D. For row crop use, for example, we mounted 13.6 R28 tires on the front of this 7220. With the use of the smaller front tires, we were able to turn back into 12 rows set on 30 inches. Your row crop customers will appreciate this enhancement to their steering options. Remember to offer this option to them. Plus, you can remind your customer that the specialty axle comes at no additional cost. In order to improve the performance of the seal on the MFD sunshaft, the following procedure should be used. Section 6013 of the Magnum Service Manual was followed for most of this procedure. You should note that after the steering knuckle assembly is removed, it is not necessary to pull the yoke assembly and axle shaft out of the axle housing. To get started, you must first remove the planetary housing. Remove the cap screws securing the housing to the axle. Separate the planetary cover from the axle. You may need a dead blow hammer and pinch bar to do this. Some axle lubricant will drain from the housing as the cover is removed. Now, remove the sunshaft. You may need a heel bar to pry it loose. Remove the cap screws holding the ring gear to the housing. After the cap screws are removed, take the ring gear off the axle assembly. You can now remove the wheel hub. You may need to strike the back of the hub to free it from the axle housing. Continue the procedure by removing the tie rod and steering cylinder from the hub. You don't have to remove the tie rod, just let it fall free from its mounting point. The lower kingpin can be removed next. The upper kingpin is removed now, but be sure the hub is supported by an overhead support. When the kingpin is removed, the hub is loose from the axle assembly. After the kingpins have been removed, lift the hub from the axle. This exposes the yoke you'll be working on. Now, secure the yoke to a jack stand using a clamp. You can now remove the existing yoke seal. It can be lifted out with a seal remover or hook. Before you continue, it's a good idea to clean the yoke area to reduce the possibility of getting debris into the assembly. The yoke on the axle shaft has to be shortened to accommodate the new sunshaft seal. To do this, you will grind off the external chamfer on the yoke, or approximately 6/100ths of an inch. Extreme care must be taken to avoid grinding off more than the chamfered edge. Before grinding, fill the splined area of the yoke with a paper towel to keep the splines clean of grinding debris. Now, carefully grind the chamfered edge from the yoke. Stop and check your work to be sure you're not taking off too much material. After grinding, remove the burr on the inside and outside of the yoke. Now that the yoke is prepared for the new seal, remove the towel and clean the area with safety solvent. Now, let's take a closer look at the new seal to be installed. Here we see the new yoke seal, the backup spacer for the yoke seal, and the new sunshaft seal. You'll notice there is a chamfered edge on the backup spacer. It's important to locate this side of the spacer so it is installed in the correct way. Now, let's continue by placing grease into the yoke spline. Position the backup spacer inside the yoke, with the chamfer up against the radius in the yoke bore. This will properly position the seal in the yoke. The new yoke seal should be installed squarely against the backup spacer with the lip to the outside. We used an old bearing race as a seal driver to properly drive the seal into its final position. Before reinstalling the axle components, be sure to replace the sunshaft seal with a new one. After the new sunshaft seal has been installed, the hub can be reinstalled to the axle. Be sure to check and adjust the bearing preload by properly shimming the bearing plate. The procedure is outlined for you in Service Manual section 6013.